Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Tuesday, August 8th, 2023. If you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my $19 rundown best bet, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at Pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Tuesday in Major League Baseball. First up, it's the Miami Marlins taking on the Cincinnati Reds. Braxton Garrett for Miami, Luke Weaver on the other side for the Reds. Now, when the Reds were playing their best baseball of the year, more towards June and the beginning of July, this team was crushing lefties. They had some of the best numbers, OPS-wise and isolated power-wise, in the league. But now, in the last 30 days, Cincinnati's moved to right around league average to a little bit below league average against lefties with a high strikeout rate of 24.3% in that last month. So I don't really love their matchup here. Braxton Garrett pitched a lot better on the road than at Lone Depot Park. On the road, a 2.65 ERA this season. We know Luke Weaver has struggled this year with an ERA just below 7. Gives up a lot of home runs. He's struggled at Great American Ballpark. Give me the Miami Marlins here on the money line on the road. Next up, let's go to Tropicana Field as the Cardinals take on the Rays. Miles Mikolas and Zach Eflin are your starters. Now, the Cardinals, we saw them get shut out by Austin Gomber and the Colorado Rockies of all teams on Sunday. And overall, in the last week or so, this Cardinals offense has struggled. Now you're going on the road against Eflin, who has pitched really well at Tropicana Field this season. A lot better at home than on the road. When you look at the home and road splits, a 4.71 ERA away from Tropicana Field, 2.6 ERA at home in 72 and two-thirds innings with 75 strikeouts, only 8 walks allowed with a very low 207 opponent's batting average. Miles Mikolas on the other side is coming off one of his best starts of the season. Even though the Cardinals lost that game, he went 7 innings of 2 earned run ball, no home runs, only 1 walk and 7 strikeouts. When he's not hitting Ian Happ in the back, his control's been really good recently. Only 2 walks allowed his last 5 starts. So give me the under here in St. Louis, Tampa Bay. I think we see a low-scoring game. The first maybe to 4 runs wins it. Next up, it's Houston Astros taking on the Baltimore Orioles with Framber Valdez and Grayson Rodriguez on the mound. Now, of course, Framber Valdez coming off the no-hitter against the Cleveland Guardians. Really impressive performance there from Framber. 9 innings, of course, only 1 walk, so just shy of a perfect game with 7 strikeouts in the end. And I'm not taking anything away from his performance in that one, but we got to remember that is the Guardians. One of the worst teams in baseball against lefties this season and last year. You're facing the Orioles now on the road, who have been one of the more profitable underdogs and profitable teams in general this season. And they are top 15 in baseball in team OPS and ISO against lefties in the last month. So definitely a much tougher matchup here for Framber, who before that no-hitter was really struggling against the Rangers, A's, and Angels, giving up 6 runs, 4 runs, and 5 runs with a good amount of extra base hits and home runs to go with it. So I don't necessarily love this spot for Framber, especially with Grayson Rodriguez on the other side, who has really improved his game recently. 3 earned runs or fewer in all 3 of those last 3 starts. No home runs allowed his last 4 games. His control's been a lot better. His strikeout numbers are still good. I'm going to take the Baltimore Orioles here. They have a good bullpen, a good lineup, a profitable underdog. Give me the O's at a really good price. Next up, we see the Minnesota Twins taking on the Detroit Tigers. Sonny Gray and Eduardo Rodriguez are your starters. Now, I talk about all the time how Sonny Gray's having a good season on paper with a 3.18 ERA and a 1.24 whip with 123 strikeouts. However, the Twins are still 5-11 in his last 16 starts going back to his first start in May. So he hasn't really been a profitable pitcher for Minnesota this year. And even though the Detroit Tigers aren't a great lineup, this team does play better at home than on the road. Eduardo Rodriguez is their best option right now on the mound, and the Twins don't really do too much against lefties, at least overall this season. A high strikeout rate, not the best OPS numbers. The power numbers starting to come along a little bit, recently, but I still think Rodriguez is the much better option in this game. I'm going to take a shot here with the Detroit Tigers on the money line at Comerica Park. Next up, it's the Atlanta Braves taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Yonny Chirinos and Mitch Keller are your starters. Don't love either of these starting pitching options in this game. We know Mitch Keller is really struggling recently. Now his ERA above 4 on the season. His last start giving up 8 earned runs in 5 innings of work against the Brewers. Now you're facing the Atlanta Braves, one of the toughest lineups to face in baseball against righties this year. I think Keller struggled, but I also think Chirinos gives up a few runs early in this game as well. His first 2 starts as the Brave, 8 2/3 innings, 12 base hits, 7 earned runs. Not the best numbers. His strikeout numbers are starting to pick it up a little bit recently, but still don't trust him here against a Pirates team that's starting to improve against righties as of late. Pretty good power numbers, and the OPS getting a little bit better as well in the last month. So give me the over here in Atlanta, Pittsburgh. Next up, it's the Chicago Cubs taking on the New York Mets. Jameson Taillon and Carlos Carrasco are your starters. Taillon's starting to improve quite a bit in his recent games. We saw his last 3 starts, 2 earned runs or fewer in all those games, 4 or more strikeouts. His control's been a little bit better, and the big thing, only 1 home run allowed in his last 3 starts, and the Cubs have won each of his last 5 games overall. So certainly making some improvements there, despite that ERA still at 5.36 on the season. We know Carlos Carrasco has really struggled so far in 2023. The Mets are he's 3-6 with a 6.6 ERA. The Mets have lost most of his starts, of course, and that includes his last game against the Royals, where he gave up 6 more earned runs in 6 innings of work in a 9-2 Royals win. That makes it 3 straight losses for Carrasco and the Mets when he's been on the mound, and all those have been blowout losses: 6-1, 11-6, 9-2. Give me the Chicago Cubs here on the money line on the road. Next up, it's the Boston Red Sox hosting the Kansas City Royals with Brady Singer and Cutter Crawford on the mound. Now, similar to a guy like Jameson Taillon, Brady Singer has got an ERA at 5 on the season. However, he's not pitching like that recently. His last 3 starts, 2 earned runs or fewer in all those games. His strikeout numbers are better. His control's a lot better. No home runs allowed his last 3 starts. The Royals are 3-1 in his last 4 starts, and against some tough teams in the Rays and Twins. And Cutter Crawford has just really struggled at Fenway Park this season. It makes sense. It's a hitter-friendly ballpark, but he's got an ERA above 6 now at Fenway this season compared to 2.13 on the road. I think this Royals team offensively is playing a lot better recently than they were at the beginning of the season. I'm going to take a shot here with Singer and the Royals plus the 1.5 runs. Next up, it's the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Cleveland Guardians. Yusei Kikuchi and Tanner Bybee are your starters. I like Tanner Bybee as a starting pitcher overall. He's pitched pretty well at Progressive Field this season, but I just don't love the team behind him right now. I don't love their matchup either against Kikuchi, who I just talked about how the Guardians have struggled against lefties recently. This season, last year, Kikuchi's in great form where his last 4 starts, 1 earned run or fewer allowed. His control's been there. No home runs allowed his last 4 starts. The Blue Jays are 4-1 in his last 5 games, and they played some tough teams along the way, the Orioles, the Dodgers. So give me the Toronto Blue Jays here on the money line. I just can't get there with Cleveland right now. Next up, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Kyle Freeland and Wade Miley are your starters. Now, Kyle Freeland on the road has just not been backable, in my opinion. He's got a 1-8 record with a 5.33 ERA. He's one of those rare Rocky starting pitchers that struggle more on the road than at Coors Field. And the big concern for me is in 50 2/3 innings, 16 walks allowed, only 17 strikeouts, so almost 1-to-1 ratio there. Not missing a lot of bats on the road, a 299 opponent's batting average, 10 home runs allowed. Now, at the beginning of the season, I might be more tempted to take the Rockies here because the Brewers struggled so much against lefties offensively, high strikeout rates, poor OPS numbers. But recently, the Brewers have made a lot of improvements. A 20.1% strikeout rate is really impressive, and they're also top 5 in baseball in the last month in team OPS and isolated power against lefties. Wade Miley's not my favorite starting pitching option, but he's pitching pretty well this year. 6-2 record, 3.01 ERA. He's in good form. Give me the Milwaukee Brewers here on the run line at home. Next up, it's the New York Yankees taking on the Chicago White Sox. Clark Schmidt and Touki Toussaint are your starters. Clark Schmidt is pitching really well for the Yankees recently. Even though the strikeout numbers are starting to dip a little bit, which is a little bit of a concern, the Yankees are still 4-1 in his last 5 starts. He's given up 3 earned runs or fewer in all 5 of those games. And when you look at the Chicago White Sox in the last month, dead last in baseball in team OPS against righties, dead last in baseball in isolated power against righties, a very low walk rate of 5.9%, a high strikeout rate of 25.1%. Just bad numbers across the board for Chicago against righties. Touki Toussaint has been decent for the White Sox and overall this season with a 3.92 ERA, but his last start, 4 earned, 2 homers against the Rangers in that 5-3 loss. I don't trust Touki or this White Sox bullpen. I'm going to take the Yankees on the run line here on the road. Next up, the San Francisco Giants taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Lucas Giolito for Los Angeles, no official starter for the Giants. Could be a bullpen game for San Francisco. Now, Lucas Giolito has really struggled in his first 2 starts as an Angel. His last game against the Braves, 3 2/3 innings, 9 earned runs, and 3 home runs. Now, we know Atlanta has been one of the best lineups in baseball this year. The Giants are struggling right now offensively, but still, it's tough to get there with the Angels in this matchup. With Giolito struggling, this bullpen also struggling mightily in the last month. An ERA it's at 5.2 in the last 30 days in the bullpen with not great expected numbers either. San Francisco, this bullpen's been pretty consistent this year. As of late, right around the middle of the pack in terms of expected numbers, but a great ERA at 2.83 in the last month. I'm going to go with San Francisco here on the money line. Next up, it's the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Julio Urias and Brandon Pfaadt are your starters. Julio Urias on the road this season in 37 2/3 innings has an ERA above 7, almost at 8 at 7.88. And his last road start was against the Orioles back on July 19th. He went 5 innings, 8 base hits, 8 earned runs in an 8-5 Orioles win. Now, I know the Diamondbacks aren't the Orioles right now. The Diamondbacks offense is really struggling against lefties and righties, but I like the fact that Arizona limits strikeouts at the dish. I think this could be a spot for a breakout performance, maybe a breakout series offensively for Arizona after their recent struggles. And the Dodgers bullpen, I also have some regression concerns going forward. The 5th highest ERA in baseball in the last month for their bullpen. On the inside, Brandon Pfaadt has made a lot of improvements. It's no surprise he was one of the more highly touted pitching prospects going into this season. And his good strikeout numbers recently, 3 earned runs or fewer his last 3 starts. His control's been a lot better. I'm going to take the Arizona Diamondbacks here on the money line at Chase Field. Next up, we see the San Diego Padres taking on the Seattle Mariners. Logan Gilbert for Seattle, no official starter for the Padres. Now, I'm going to lean towards Seattle in this game, but it's not my favorite game on the board for a couple of reasons, and a couple of reasons why I would be a little bit concerned with taking Seattle. One of those is the fact that Logan Gilbert has struggled at T-Mobile Park this season with a 4.66 ERA and a 2-4 record. Now, overall, the Mariners have won a lot of Gilbert's games recently. In fact, the last 6 games, he's pitched in all wins for Seattle, 7 of 8 as well. And he's faced some tough teams, the Orioles, the Astros, the Giants, the Blue Jays, some winning teams. But the San Diego lineup is pretty tough against righties as of late. Good numbers, top 10 in isolated power, top 15 in team OPS, and a very low BABIP to go with it, so it suggests even more positive regression going forward. So I could see Gilbert struggling. The reason why I would still take Seattle is the fact that their bullpen has a big advantage in this matchup. I don't love this Padres bullpen beyond Josh Hader, and I do think if this is a close game late, Seattle has to take the advantage, especially as the home team. So give me the Seattle Mariners in the lean here on the money line. Maybe a lean towards the over as well. And the final game for Tuesday's card in Major League Baseball, it's the Texas Rangers taking on the Oakland Athletics. Max Scherzer and J.P. Sears are your starters in this one. Now, in his Rangers debut, Max Scherzer struggled early on in that outing against the Chicago White Sox, giving up 3 runs in the first inning, but he settled in really nicely afterwards, actually getting a quality start, 6 innings, 3 runs, 9 strikeouts in that 5-3 Rangers win and run line cover. I think he pitches well here against an Oakland A's team. It's been a little bit better as of late offensively, but still one of the worst teams in baseball. J.P. Sears, a 4.07 ERA this year, not too shabby. Has been one of the better starters in this A's rotation, but this is a very tough Rangers lineup to face. Not a great bullpen behind Sears, and the Rangers have good numbers against lefties and righties in the last month. Give me the Rangers here. Not a great price, but I'm going to lay the 1.5 runs with the Rangers on the road. And that's it. Those are the games for Tuesday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.